The focus for today is the Black Panther Party for self-defense, the terms you want to be able to define at the end. And we're going to use the AP source worksheet to analyze the sources. And here's your task for the primary source written document. We're going to do a quick recap because the point here is that the ideas of Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam influenced the Black Panther Party with regard to their ideology. We already established that within the civil rights movement, King and Malcolm X are both on the left of society, but internally within the civil rights movement, Malcolm X as a black nationalist is on the political right. Malcolm X believed that integration was a temporary solution because blacks did not control any of the institutions within their local community. As a result of that, they would always be at the mercy of what the establishment wants them or does not want them to have. As far as the Black Panther Party movement's concerned, they're going to pick up on that idea of black nationalism. As Malcolm writes, you're not going to be able to get a better job in the white man's factory, the white man's business, the white man's industry, or economy. And his ideas would influence the Black Panther Party, as well as Tommy Smith and John Carlos in the '68 Olympics. These are the terms you want to be able to define, the highlighted items which are in the framework. And we're going to be looking at the Second Amendment because the Black Panther Party advocated for armed defense, self-defense, which is going to prompt the FBI to utilize the COINTELPRO to infiltrate the Black Panther Party, which was not uncommon. They also infiltrated groups like the KKK, the Mattachine Society, any far left or far right group. As far as the Black Panther Party is concerned, these individuals were concerned about providing survival programs, which would provide free breakfast, clothing, medical care, as well as education and black studies for African Americans. The Black Panther Party was formed by these two college students, and their first issue was about police brutality. And they also were friendly with this individual, Richard Aoki, who may or may not be an FBI informant. And the argument is that this is the individual that helped arm the Black Panther Party. First source we're going to look at is the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party. And you want to complete this task as you go through the 10-point items. Now, basically what you want to do is identify 2 points that you think will work and one that you think will not work or seems ridiculous. And a point of discussion would be any of the points that might be helpful for present day. As they mention here that they want full employment, and they are going to argue that the federal government is the one responsible. Notice here we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black community. This is where they're starting to get into some ideas of Marxism, which could potentially be problematic. Decent housing, as well as education. Education always viewed in the United States as a way for upward mobility. Some more items in their program. They want blacks to be exempt from military service, an end to police brutality, and they want African Americans in jails to be released, and the argument is they did not receive a fair trial. Well, what you want to do is think about these points, continue reading the remaining portion of the source, and figure out which ones could be helpful today, one that just seems impossible, and two that you, for some reason, think are the most important. That's the task here as we discuss these particular points. Another image required in the AP framework is this photograph of Black Panther women. It was mentioned that the women definitely played a role in those lunch programs, as well as some of the schools that the Black Panther Party was trying to organize. Here we see another image, free food program from the year 1972. What we're going to do here is we're going to use this link here, which is going to take us to the FBI document database, and we're going to try to figure out what information they have on the Black Panther Party. So as we read this source, what did the FBI say about the Black Panther Party according to this document? With this document, same thing. We want to figure out what information the FBI is trying to compile on the Black Panther Party. And for this source, it's looking at the OAU, as well as Malcolm X is mentioned in this source. So we want to know what the FBI is saying about these organizations, because again, remember, the FBI does have COINTELPRO, and the job of COINTELPRO is to infiltrate far left and far right groups. What we're going to do now is we're going to use the link, and you are going to work on your own to sort through all of these sources and then report back on what you find. One of the things you're going to notice in the documents is a reference to communism or Marxism. And so this is a brief introduction into the ideas of Karl Marx. Ultimately, what Karl Marx is arguing is that the workers of a society are in a position to overthrow the ruling class. The only difference is he called the ruling class the bourgeoisie, the working class the proletariats, and argued that at some point the proletariats would overthrow these individuals. As we look more into the ideas of Karl Marx, we see a society of classes divided up by the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. It's just a fancy way of saying the group that has the resources and the group that has none of the resources. Karl Marx was arguing that it is inevitable that the workers of the world would want to overthrow the bourgeoisies. The only issue is they need to be organized, and that's where the communist comes in. The job of the communist, who is a proletariat, is to inspire the proletariat, try to convince them that it's in their best interest to overthrow the bourgeoisie. If they are successful, then you see the bourgeoisies, proletariats, and the communists all in one circle. They should collectively distribute the resources. And that right there is where you have communism, a classless society. Now, the reading mentions Marxism. Marxism is when you have a society with no government. This is the idea of Karl Marx. In a communist society, the government does remain, and usually that government is the communists that led the revolution. So there is a difference between communism and Marxism. It's just that the sources mention Marxism. So what's happening with the civil rights movement in the late 1960s is that some of the oppressed groups are starting to look at common oppression throughout the world. And what they're recognizing is that there is a global bourgeoisie, like the United States, like Britain. And if there is a global bourgeoisie, there has to be a global proletariat. At this point in the 60s, the United States is fighting a war in Vietnam. And groups like the Black Panther Party would argue that the people of Vietnam are the proletariats, and they have something in common with the African American who is in the United States. Two people of color that are both being exploited and taken advantage of by the global bourgeoisie. So why does this matter? Because when we're talking about the Cold War in the 1960s, which is also going on, COINTELPRO is trying to weed out communists domestically in the US. So here's an image of a supposed training session that Martin Luther King Jr. attended, which says he was attending a communist school. This is a way to discredit him, as well as to alienate his followers, who have to pick if they believe to support someone who is advocating for race or someone advocating for communism. Additionally, we could talk about Black Panther Party members like Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton from Chicago also recognized this and was trying to unite people of color in Chicago in what he called his Rainbow Coalition, which consisted of African Americans, Asian Americans, Latino Americans. So what we're going to do here is take a look at these clips, and these clips will focus on the ideology of the Black Panther Party. And at the end, you want to be able to define these terms. And if you need assistance, here are the answers.